Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
Let's explore unlocking the blueprint for leadership mastery. Thinking about leadership is the ability to guide, influence, or lead others, whether they're individuals, teams, or organizations. It's really about making a difference and leaving a legacy for a greater good. This in turn begs my first question for you. Are you a leader? For some people, this may be an easy question to answer, but I'm asking the question in a very rhetorical sense. Because based on the definition I just gave, one would assume that you must absolutely see yourself as being a leader. Whether you're leading a team, a business, or possibly an organization, maybe you're a leader in your community, in your social circles, or maybe you're a leader in your family. Even if none of those are true for you, in the most basic sense, you are a leader because you lead yourself. Now, just don't hear that statement that I just said and believe it on the surface, but know it to be true in your heart. You are the leader of you. Repeat this statement to yourself. I am the leader of me. Now, to unpack the word mastery means or denotes having a great skill at or dominance over something. Therefore, if you embrace the idea that you are the leader of you, then leadership mastery would indicate that you must first be the true master of you in order to guide, influence, or lead others in the most effective and authentic way. You must be the leader of you and master of you to make positive difference and possibly leave a legacy for the greater good in the world. So before we begin to unlock this blueprint for leadership mastery, I'd like to create a starting point or a place for us to begin, where we can get on the same page, same stage, same footing. And that starting point is going to come from a quote that I'd like to share with you from ancient wisdom. Now, there's a 6th century BC Chinese philosopher named Lao Tzu. And he was credited for saying the following quote: knowing others is intelligence, knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power. Now, that really resonated for me when I first saw that quote, and I'm wondering how that lands for you. And in that vein, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and let's walk down a virtual path together as we begin to explore the 3 strategies that I have for you for unlocking your blueprint for leadership mastery. Let's begin with 2 questions to ponder. Who are you, and what kind of leader do you aspire to be? Let's take the first question. Who are you? As for me, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a partner, I'm a friend, I'm a veteran, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I'm a student, I'm a teacher, I'm a leader, I'm a man, I'm a person, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I can be all of these things, or I could be none of these things. But am I striving to be the best authentic version of myself? Am I living life to my fullest potential? Have I begun to work on mastering myself and who I am in all of my experiences? What about you? Would you like to be the master of you? Would you like to become the architect of your experiences? If so, then let's continue with the second question. And the second question is, what kind of leader do you aspire to be? Let me share a quick story. When I was first asked this question by my mentor back in 2009, I began to reflect on all my life experiences that had the greatest impact on me. A handful of these experiences were really positive, but most of them were pretty negative experiences. However, the real question that he was asking was, who inspired me the most? That could have been any historical figure, it could have been a mythical figure, or potentially people that I actually knew, past or present. And for those leaders that impacted me, those are people like my father or my grandfather or my uncle. But there was another person that had an impact on me, and I want to share that person's name with you. His name was General Colin Powell. And General Powell was the head of the American forces during the Desert Shield, Desert Storm conflict back in the early 90s. And he was the leader that had the most impact on me. And he was actually the commencement speaker at my graduation when I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in 1992. And I had an opportunity to sit down with General Powell and have a conversation with him. And as you are thinking about who had the most impact on you, there's a reason why they had an impact. And I want to share what he did for me or what my experience was like with him. He was supportive. He treated you like a human being. He spoke directly to you, looked you in your eye. He was a person of his word. He had integrity. He was honest. He was fair. He was equitable. He was respectful. And when you were with him, you felt like you were the most important person in the space with him. Now you're thinking about the leaders that had an impact on you, and they had exhibited certain characteristics and traits that had a profound impact on you. What were those characteristics and traits? Write those down. Make a list of that. And then as you're doing that, and as you do that, think to yourself, how often do I exhibit those characteristics and traits in my interactions? The first strategy for us for unlocking the blueprint for leadership mastery is to emulate the type of leader that you'd like to be. And not only emulate that, but set a daily intention to begin emulating the traits and characteristics that person displayed. Do that now. You do not wait until you have perfected the skills first and acquired the skills fully first. Which leads me to our second strategy, which is about you only have so much time. So, what do I mean by that? You only have so much time. In 2016, I met this beautiful human being. His name was Richard Leiter. He was a co presenter and speaker and founding member at a global leadership institute for Fortune 100 leaders that I had the privilege of being invited to not only be a coach, but be a facilitator at. And it was a week-long opportunity experience. And during that time, during one of our conversations, he asked me two very profound questions, two questions that catalyzed my entire existence. And these two questions were, what are the two most important days of your life? And do you like mathematics? And so I've always loved mathematics. So we tackled that question first. So here's the math. There are 29,200 days in the average human being's lifetime. That's about 80 years. So let's do some real quick life math so I can impress upon you just how urgent this journey, this experience is. Take your age and multiply it by 365, and you're going to get a number. Take that number you get and subtract that from 29,200, and you get a final number. At the time that I did this math and I met Richard, I was 46 years old. And I calculated that number and I got to look at it. I saw it. And it was instantly sobering and slightly morbid, but also very catalyzing at the same time. And here's why. Mark Twain has been credited with the person saying that the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day that you discover why. Ancient tribes and civilizations throughout history have said the same thing. There have been many great sages and shamans and prophets and oracles and tribal elders and historical figures of the like who have all said the same thing. The question I have is, are we listening? If you do your own research, you will soon discover that having purpose is the foundation for achieving personal mastery and, by default, leadership mastery. Through my own personal research, I've learned that the fundamental or default purpose for every human being is to grow and give. Grow yourself and give to others. However, it's your calling, which is how you do the growing and giving. It's your calling, which is how you do that. And back in 2016, after all my so-called leadership accomplishments and achievements, I found myself asking the question, what is my true calling? And it took some really deep work to uncover my gifts, to uncover my passions and my values, to come to what brings me joy, what brings me fulfillment, and what I am most grateful for. What is your true calling? What is your purpose? If you don't already know, are you ready to begin the journey of discovering who you are and what your purpose and calling are? Right? Which leads me to my next thought. And I like to share a poem when I think about this, because this kind of pops in my head. And the poem is called Invictus, and it's written by a man named William Ernest Henley. Um, and it goes like this: out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for this, my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied, but I'm bowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, no heart charged with punishments to scroll, for I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Now, I share that poem for several reasons. One, it has deep, profound meaning for me, but it's the poem that put me on a personal development path. And when you begin to explore self or personal mastery and get on that journey, you're going to find a lot of clues and a lot of processes there. You're going to find some science. And when you look at the science of it, every human being has a desire and need to self-actualize. The self-actualization is about working toward and achieving your goals, having processes in place to do so, and having an accountability system to get there. The challenge that we have today with self-actualization is that we have to go through the basic needs and walk up the ladder to get there. And when you're struggling to meet basic needs, put food on the table, clothing on your children's back, have shelter, safety, security, it's really difficult to self-actualize. But that is a desire that we all have. When you look at it from an ancient wisdom perspective, you're talking about the term enlightenment. Now, enlightenment sounds extremely ethereal. It is reaching a place of nirvana by transcending both desire and suffering at the same time. Now, we credit great sages of the past, prophets of the past. We look at a Buddha, we look at a Jesus, we look at other sages and people who have reached or attained what we call enlightenment. But it sounds like it's out there ethereal in the clouds. But what if we could unpack those definitions and integrate the two concepts and the ideas and the processes to make them more tangible, to make them more attainable, to make them less ethereal, more practical? I've shared this concept before and I've called it practical enlightenment. But for this purpose, I'm going to call it something different. I'm going to call it human alchemy. And human alchemy really is defining the journey of what I would call becoming human 2.0. Now, why alchemy? Alchemy is defined as the art and science of transformation, inner liberation and transmutation, and also universal change. So, in layman terms, if I want to keep it very simple, human alchemy is about the art and science of creating human transformation or evolution, right? Human evolution. What does that look like? Well, there's 3 stages in this evolution process. And those stages are about discovering, awakening, and evolving. So, what do I mean by discover? Discovering is really about getting down to the essence of who you truly are, what your purpose is, what drives you, where do you find passion, what are your gifts, what are your values, so that you can figure out and discover your true calling. Awakening is about realizing your unbounded potential. What do you have the capacity to create? What do you have the capacity to transform? Not just outside of you, but within you. We all come with a certain level of resilience. We all come with a certain capacity for change and evolution and mindset, but we can implement and embody practices in order to build the capacity to do so much more. And then through the integration and embodiment of those practices, we can transform the human experience, the experience that we're having right now. You can transform your relationships, interpersonal or romantic or friendships. You can transform the life that you have. That poem I read says you are the master of your soul. You are the creator. You are the world changer. But you got to find balance. And the balance is something you can create. You can create balance emotionally, create balance mentally, create balance physically, create balance spiritually, and ultimately create that balance consciously. But you have to start the journey. You can't be wishy washy about the journey. You can't just dabble in the journey. Leading yourself is the most important leadership quality that you can have. When we start thinking about the most inspiring leaders and the most transformative leaders that we've ever experienced or heard about, they were able to lead themselves. And it didn't have to be perfect. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This journey is for all of us. We just have to answer the calling. So, in that vein, ultimately, this blueprint for unlocking leadership mastery comes down to choices. You can choose to emulate any leader you'd like to emulate. But why not choose the one that has had the most impact on you? How about choosing the one that has exhibited the characteristics and traits that we all desire to have? How about we emulate those and start integrating those characteristics and traits today? Be the leader that you want to emulate. I've had so many people in my lifetime teach me things from tying my shoes to cooking food to cleaning and washing clothes to serving other people in a way that went well above and beyond serving myself. I watched people make impact in multiple societies and communities and only dreamed of doing the same thing. But instead of trying to run up the hill by myself, I decided to take a clue from my father Take a clue from my grandfather. Take a clue from my uncle. Take a clue from General Powell and begin showing up that way. Purpose is there for everybody. Calling is there for everyone. People talk about calling near end of life, or start talking about the things they regret near end of life because they chose not to take the risk. They chose not to make the decision or choices that could have changed the world. We don't want to live in regret. Leadership mastery is about making the hard choices and the hard decisions now. Leadership mastery is about making the hard choices for ourselves so that we can show up and be our best versions for everybody else. How do you intend to lead? How do you intend to show up? What are your practices? What are your rituals? The personal development journey is about establishing what will bring out the best version of you. What will transform you into the ideal vision you have for yourself? And that starts with the rituals. It begins with the rituals, and we all have them. They may serve and they may not serve. But if you are emulating the type of leader you like to be, and if you truly are working on discovering your purpose and your calling, and then begin to align every aspect of your life around what you're called to do, whether that's emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, aligning these areas around what you're called to do, you will start and begin to notice change in yourself. And we all know that the world without is a direct reflection of the world within. And if we're not satisfied on the world that we see on the outside, then it may better serve us to look at what's going on in the world within and start to make some hard choices and realign ourselves around what we're called to do. Begin the personal mastery journey. Take it seriously. Take purpose and calling seriously. Take the way you show up as a leader seriously. People emulate their leaders, whether you are a great leader or whether you're a mediocre leader. We learned the lesson. We're learning the lessons. It's up to us to apply those lessons that we're learning. We can either be serving or it can be taking away. Remember, there are 29,200 days in life expectancy of a human being. Wherever we are now, has the time we spent served us, or has the time that we've spent distracted us? All in all, now that we're aware of this, we can shift the journey today. We're never too old, and we're never too young. But we have to make the decision to do it now. Every moment that we've experienced leads to right now. My name is Paul McFadden, and it's wonderful to talk to you, my beautiful human beings.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.